All right, we're back here at the Throwback Guitar Lounge podcast with an unfamiliar face to the rest of the viewing audience here. But if you called Throwback, you may have talked to him. It's Paul Hudson, Throwback master pickup winder. Paul, say hi.
Hello.
Paul, your name is Paul Hudson.
My name is Paul Hudson.
Okay. So if you may have spoken to Paul Hudson when you called, or if you didn't get me or Matthew, you may have heard him operating noisy winding machines in the background. But this is the day that you get to see Paul. Paul, put your chin down. The glare on your glass. That's very good. Matthew's on vacation. So Paul. This is Paul's big opportunity to make it into the podcasting world on the Throwback Guitar Lounge podcast. So, Paul, how do you feel about this? I'm
very camera shy, so
okay.
We'll see how this goes.
All right. So in this, we're going to have a guitar argument, right, Paul? And
yes.
And one of the things that Paul often says, Paul, you do not play an instrument like a guitar or bass, correct? Playing the guitar is not a requirement for making wonderful pickups. You have proven this, but you do not play guitar or bass. Am I correct?
I do not. I don't even play the triangle well.
But Matthew plays the bass, and through office banter, there's kidding and prodding, and a repeat theme with Paul concerning musical instruments is if we have a gig and Matthew says, "Oh, I can't do that gig," Paul says, "Well, he's just playing the bass. Anyone could do that. I could do it." Right, Paul?
I don't think I would ever say something like that.
You have said this before. So Paul is of the camp that anybody can play bass. So the guitar argument for today is anyone can play bass. Yes or no? We're going to argue that. Paul, you are going to naturally you will take the side of anyone can play bass because this is your assertion. Right?
Well, of course, also with your expert guidance.
Okay.
I should be able to pick it up, no problem.
Okay, that's right. So the cool down with this guitar argument will be Paul playing bass, completely unrehearsed. I have a bass here with a couple of colored dots on it, on the neck, and I will give you a choice of 2 notes to play to back me up on bass, and we will in fact see if anyone can play bass with no prior experience. I think you may be up to it, Paul, but we're going to find out. The rest of the viewing audience will as well. So, you feel okay about that? Paul, get a little closer to the microphone there.
I think I can handle it.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so that's our intro. I'm going to talk a little bit about Paul here as well in the let's go on to the throwback news, because Paul, you are part of the throwback news. How long have you worked here?
Since the fall of 2008.
Wow. You have a very specific memory of that. Okay. So I hired Paul initially. I was still doing commercial photography and throwback stuff at the same time. So at that point, was I still fully assembling the effect pedals also? Do you remember?
Yes.
I was.
Yes.
So I hired Paul as sort of someone to help with throwback and also to help as a assistant when I had photo shoots. So, but in that experience with Paul, I realized he is very, very good at precision work. So I started with him. Because part of it, the photography is very precise because you have to continue. At the time we were shooting film. We were shooting film at the time, weren't we? Was I still doing 4x5 film, or was it digital at that point?
I think you were in the process of switching over to digital.
Okay. So, in any event, the setup, this was commercial photography, setup required precision placement of lights and everything. And with the film, there's very specific, precise routine that you have to follow. So I thought, well, I'll get Paul helping along with the more detailed tasks of Throwback Electronics. And eventually that led to Paul winding pickups. And he is extremely meticulous at it, and which I and our customers, I'm sure, appreciate. And he's very animated. So over the years now, the kind of the routine was when he started, I was winding all the pickups, and it has morphed into where now for quite a few years, Paul does exclusively the running of the Lisona 102 machine, ME301 for Gibson stuff, and the Slug 101 winder and the KZ 115 winder. And at this point, you have got more experience on those machines than anyone on the planet. I have said this to Phil McKnight in our interview. So you have a unique position in the world, whether you want it or not, of having a level of experience on these older machines that than anyone alive, or if there is anyone alive, anyone working doing this. So, because we have a unique collection of machines here that Paul is expert in using. So, Paul, how do you feel about that?
I think that's pretty accurate.
Okay.
However, you are the one who taught me how to.
That's true, but you whenever I say you've made a mistake, which is rare, you say you only taught me the mistake. You taught me everything I know. So, but later in the Pickup Precision with Paul segment of the show, I have a series of 20 questions that I will ask Paul. He has not rehearsed these questions. We will see the level of pickup precision that is present in your personage, Paul.
I hope I have all your answers.
Okay. But, befitting your status here, Paul, and in the world of pickup making, as the only person on the planet with the number of hours winding these pickups, and by the way, if you have Throwback pickups you've purchased within the last, at least 10 years, probably.
Yeah.
That are either a PAF or P90. Paul is almost certainly wound them. And you may have assembled them, or Matthew may have assembled them.
Unless it was a P90.
The P90, you do the assembly of the P90s. Matthew does the assembly of PAFs also. I do the wiring stuff and fender pickups. So the routine here is Paul's winding the PFs and P90s. So, befitting your status as the person in the universe, really, Paul, would you say the universe is too wide of a we have to assume that there is no one in the universe unless you have a doppelganger in an alternate dimension?
Well, I've heard that, there's infinite possibilities.
That's true. I guess, given quantum theory, that is possible. Since it is possible that there could be an alternate dimension with a Paul Hudson in it, we have to assume that is the case, since it's a possibility if we're to believe quantum theory. But I thought befitting your status, I needed to somehow appropriately acknowledge this in this podcast. And Paul, we work here in the building right across the street from the Grand River, correct?
Yes.
You may not know this, Paul, but the Kalamazoo River flows into the Grand River. And the other day there's construction across the street. There's a parking lot for this building, and across the street they're redoing the riverbank, and it's almost an archaeological site at this point. Wouldn't you say? They're drilling, putting in piers, they're digging up stuff. They've got a fence up, and I was walking around over there thinking, like, what is the thing how can I fully communicate the importance of Paul to Throwback Electronics and all of the Throwback Electronics customers? And it appeared to me physical manifestation, Paul, in the sand and mud of the banks of the Grand River. The only explanation I can have for this is, well, I can't explain it, Paul. It is, other than forces beyond our understanding may have made this happen. But in the mud of the Grand River there was a wooden curly maple box, weathered and distorted from floating down the river. I have to believe from the Kalamazoo River, which runs right past the old plant, Kalamazoo plant. In that box, I picked it up. I released it from its muddy place on the banks there that had been unearthed. In that box, I opened it, were specific instructions, and within, I don't know if you would call it a talisman, an important object that was destined for Paul Hudson. And I am going to present it to you here, Paul. Now, with this object, were specific instructions. And I have these instructions here. You are now open this up, Paul. And I want you to show the Throwback Podcast audience here. You've not seen this.
I had no idea I was getting a present today.
Well, I don't want to oversell it. Okay, Paul, I want you to open the box. Open the box for all to see here. The camera's right there. This is, now, according to the instructions found within this curly maple box, this item is the talisman or the symbol of the Order of the Golden Butyrate Bobbin. There is only one person to possess this in the universe, Paul. And it was just, again, this was destined by a twist of fate, by, again, forces unknown to all, to be here for you. To acknowledge.
It's beautiful.
So, okay, now it does have very specific instructions, and I have to read this, Paul. Hold on. Before you put this, there's a chain on it. Before you put this around your neck, there's a process here. Okay. Again, these were the instructions. We're only following the instructions here. I bestow upon you, Paul Hudson, this golden PAF bobbin. Okay, you may release it from its cradle there to signify to all you cast. Wait, sorry, I'll start over. I didn't rehearse this, Paul. I bestow unto you, Paul Hudson, this golden PAF bobbin to signify to all who cast their eyes upon it. It shall be known that you, as its wearer, are the keeper of the coil, the wizard of the winder, tasked with the heavy burden of guarding the alchemy of creating the tone of gods with mere mortal hands. You may wear it.
You're not gonna put it on.
That's right. I should.
Yes.
Okay, take your headphones off, Paul. Well, okay. All right. All right. I hope you wear that in good health, and I think with this becomes a responsibility that at some point you will have to cede possession of this object to another party worthy.
Well, we'll see if I ever retire.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, again, if you believe in quantum physics, this may be the result of, again, powers beyond our understanding.
It also might not be the only one if you believe in the quantum theory.
Shoot, you're right. Actually, there was another one, but it didn't turn out right when I painted it last night. We had that little rainstorm, just this little rain, and I used the spray paint. It condensed right on it when I sprayed it. The humidity was so high.
Well, that worked out good for me because now I have a
Yeah.
now I have a one that's been plated with real gold.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, good. Okay. All right, Paul. We've gotten through the important ceremony. We will go to the tools and tips, Paul. If you haven't watched it, Paul, have you watched the podcast regularly?
Of course,
Of course. Okay.
religiously.
A segment of the podcast is the tools and tips, and either Matthew and I will give a tool or a tip that we think is important to the guitar audience, and I've got one. And this, I put it right over here. This is a Paul. Would you like to see that? That is a That's a little wrench. That is called a.
I see these laying around all the time.
Yeah. These kind of get in the way all the time, don't they? I have a little table here that we do swap pickups out on for testing and all. But this is one of the tools that's laying around. This is called a spanner wrench generally, but the purpose of this tool is to tighten or loosen the knurled nut on a Gibson Les Paul ES335, anything that has a sort of switchcraft knurled nut style jack, toggle switch. And this works very well at that. And you can also use it to pry knobs up very carefully. And even the stop tail wide slot screws, this will often fit in there to make fine adjustments with those screws. But I'll put a link in Amazon to this wrench, which in fact the wrench that I found on there is the Music Nomad spanner wrench with microfiber suede backing. So it's the same wrench, but it has microfiber suede on the back here to avoid marring the finish when you adjust the nut with this wrench, which is a possibility. You got to be super careful using it around your finish. But I think that I would assume that microfiber coating or suede on it is there to avoid any marring of the finish. So I'll put a link to that in the throwback, ever-growing throwback Amazon links in the description. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
No. Okay. All right. Okay, Paul. We're going to go on. Oh, you know what? We're going to go back to the throwback news. I got so caught up in the presentation of the golden butyrate bobbin, that I forgot to mention some throwback news that will be of interest to throwback customers. We had a little bit of a Alnico 2 magnet crisis. Can you confirm this, Paul?
We did.
We did. So the crisis for our bar magnets was all of our bar magnets come from the USA, but rod magnets as well. But we're talking about bar magnets here for this little mini crisis. And one of the bar magnets we go through quickest, just by virtue of all of the models that use it, are throwback Alnico 2, long Alnico 2 bar magnets. And so we order these regularly from Arnold Magnetics. And turnaround time is typically around 2 to 3 months. And it was coming due for these magnets to be ordered last October or so. And I placed an order, and they notified me that the lead time was going to be extended to June because they were moving their location 25 miles away. And they had to take down their entire foundry, reset it up, and that was cutting it way too close. So the stopgap measure to avoid a problem was to have Thomas & Skinner, who's our other USA-made magnet supplier, make us an Alnico 2 bar magnet based upon the short Alnico 2 biomagnet they make for us also. So we would have a long Alnico 2 magnet. Well, this turned what would have been a single order into 2 orders, and just because we had to have these magnets on hand to make our pickups. Yes, Paul?
Yes.
And so the upshot of this is we had this sort of double order of magnets, and it's a good thing we ordered the Thomas & Skinner, because for some of the models we had to start using them. But the Arnold magnets have arrived, and on top of that, they did an overrun, which we agreed to purchase. But it means that essentially we have purchased about $39,000 worth of Alnico 2 bar magnets between Thomas & Skinner and Arnold. The fortunate part of this is, though, that the Thomas & Skinner magnets are just enough different in tone in a pickup for us to offer them as another variation to the magnet offerings. You'll love this, Paul.
Oh.
yeah. So I will describe them as sounding a little drier. So we already offer 9 variations. It's 9, isn't it? Is it 8 or 9 of Alnico 2 magnets that people can buy to experiment with?
It's probably at least 9 now.
Yeah, so it's 9 or 10 now. I'm going to put them on the website, and I'm going to make some specific models using these Thomas & Skinner long Alnico 2 magnets, which I'm going to describe on the website as a long Alnico 2 dry, because they sound just a little drier, is the way I would describe it, than the Arnold magnets that we use also, the Arnold long Alnico 2. So you have that to look forward to, Paul, when we're making pickups and filling orders for bar magnets. So I'll update the website maybe this weekend, and anyone wanting to experiment with the throwback A2 long dry magnets, they can get them on there, and we'll have a couple of pickup models dedicated to those magnets as well. And again, those are basically the long variation of the short Alnico 2 we already get from Thomas & Skinner. So a little different just by virtue of the length of them. But if you like our short Alnico 2, you're going to like the long Thomas & Skinner Alnico 2. So, okay, let's go on, Paul, to the guitargument. Are you? I've conveniently prepared a list here for you. Well, actually, ChatGPT did, to defend your side of the argument. I think you're already pretty convinced that this whole idea of the bass being the easiest entry point into the guitar playing world. So much so that it really doesn't require any prior training, that you are fully equipped to defend your side of the argument. Yes, Paul?
Yes, according to ChatGPT. I'm a little disappointed in this list, though.
Uh-oh. Well, explain, Paul.
Well, Kim Gordon and Sid Vicious and...
Oh no! Don't blow your whole argument here at the get-go. I'm gonna have to first refute your assertion here. So we got the timer. Okay, Paul. 5 minutes of heated discussion about this. Uh-oh. You're scooting back in your chair. Okay. All right. The guitargument today is anyone can play the bass, yes or no? And you say yes.
Yes.
You say yes, Paul. I say no. And we will start now. I will start this guitargument. Usually Matthew starts, but I feel so strongly about your error in thinking that anyone can play bass that I must start this. 5 minutes starts now. Okay. All right, Paul. So you've this has been a topic of ribbing of Matthew Quayle over the years, and that is that anyone can play bass, and on its surface, I guess it seems easier because we've got 4 strings rather than 6 of a guitar, right?
Yes.
They're bigger, so the strings are bigger. So I guess the appearance would be that these are easier to press down. They're not as sort of precise as a guitar, and they if you listen to if you see a bass player performing very often, they don't appear to be doing a whole lot. So I can see perhaps this would be your feeling that it does not require any previous experience or training in order to do a competent job. Am I overstating this, Paul? Or
Well, I don't know about competent.
So that's right. I guess that's right. You said anyone could do it. You didn't say they could do it well.
Right.
Okay. Well, I maintain that there is a level of rhythmic instinct and an insight that must be present in order to do well at playing the bass. And that these qualities can only be developed through practice, instruction, and devotion to the instrument, which is the bass guitar, the bass electric guitar. I will cite people like John Entwistle as being a virtuoso at the bass. People like Bootsy Collins, who innovative in the funk realm. Paul McCartney, who brought a whole new melodic approach to the bass. All of these people.
What about Les Claypool?
Who?
Les Claypool.
Les Claypool. Is he on there?
He is not.
No. Okay. Well, so Les Claypool.
Really
Yes, these are very,
me.
very complex bass lines, and I maintain that just doesn't happen because anybody can do it. Okay, so we're halfway through this, Paul. Well, what if I were to say to you that Sid Vicious was not just a mere figure holding a bass in the Sex Pistols? He was a well-informed musician. What would you say?
I would say he had little to no musical ability when he joined the band. He was
I'm
chosen
shocked.
more for his attitude and image than skill.
Oh my! I'm shocked. Okay, you have a list there, Paul. I want you to go through it. Well, you give me your best shot as to whether or not that anyone can do the bass.
Well, you got Kim Gordon.
Who's Kim Gordon?
From Sonic Youth.
Oh yeah. Okay.
She had no formal training when she picked up the bass. She learned by doing in Sonic Youth's experimental environment. I don't know about the wording of that.
I didn't write it. That's AI. Oh, is there more?
You got Tina Weymouth of Talking Heads.
I actually am surprised by this.
She learned bass specifically to join Talking Heads and had no previous bass experience, but quickly developed a signature style.
See, I'm actually surprised by that.
You got Paul Simonon?
Go on. Keep
From
reading.
The Clash.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He didn't know how to play when he
Well,
joined.
that was sort of like the thing. I suspect this is a claim, that they like, we're so punk, we don't play the instrument. We just stand up here and scowl and look cool, and we're so punk that we don't even have to play the damn thing. It's probably a put on, don't you think?
Could be.
Could be. Oh, we don't know.
I mean, it's The Clash, so
Oh, okay. All right, keep going with that list.
Chris Novoselic, Nirvana.
Okay.
He was self-taught with little initial experience.
All right.
Learned as Nirvana was forming and evolving.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is there more there?
You got D.D. Ramone from the Ramones. He jumped into punk without knowing how to play properly.
Oh my. Oh, the 5 minutes is up. Keep going with your list there.
Well, his raw minimalist approach became iconic.
Okay.
And then you got Gina Birch of the Raincoats. She picked up bass with no prior musical training, contributing to the band's post-punk, do-it-yourself spirit.
They're all punk, or a lot of them are punk, aren't they? See, that's what makes me suspicious. They're all punk, and they're all claiming to not know how to do it. I think maybe it would be a credibility problem if they said, "Yeah, I'm a highly trained musician."
That maybe.
Maybe that conflicts with the punk thing. Okay. All right. Okay, Paul, that was 5 minutes. Now the cool down is we're going to see if you can play bass.
We'll see.
You think you can do it?
I think so.
Okay. So, well, before we do this, I will. So I'll set it up. So I have a bass here. I will play something that is sort of droney, that doesn't require a bunch of changes. I will give you a choice of 2 notes you can play. I will give you also, if you want to explore a bit more, I will give you. I will show you 3 spots where you could alternately place your fingers and play a note, and it would probably work. That's all you get. Okay?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right, let's set that up. We'll do that right now. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, Paul, we're back. Are you grab your microphone there? Are you ready for the big stage yet? I think it worked, sort of.
I maybe with a little,
but a couple,
maybe like 10, 15 minutes of,
10 or 15 minutes where you have it down.
Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't tell me what to do or anything. Yeah. So
I did say red, blue. Maybe once.
I didn't hear you. If you did. I think you forgot to tell me what to do.
Okay. So, all right. Well, you some of the notes were right. I did tell you could go between the notes. I think maybe you didn't get the concept. Maybe you hung on a few of those notes that were between the red and the blue, maybe too long, but it worked.
You're the musician.
Okay. So it was my fault. Okay.
Tell me.
All right. Okay. All right. So, well, you've proven that you can play the notes. Well, you can play two. It sort of worked.
Sort of, yes.
It sort of worked.
I mean, I didn't have any practice or warning as to what I was going to be doing.
And drums, if you put drums behind there and got a few drinks in everybody. Everybody probably thought it sounded great.
Yes,
You might want to start a punk band. Okay. All right. So that was the guitar argument, the Cool Down Paul. It was perhaps perhaps it is the entry level instrument for those wanting to play the guitar. I think you might have a band in your future.
I would definitely probably try to start with the bass.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now Paul, we had given your we have Matthew's musical musings, right? And actually, Matthew's musical musings, when we were talking about a podcast, that was your suggestion because the name for Matthew's musical musings, because Matthew does like to chat about sort of things that have gone on with him during the week.
Yes,
and so. We are going to call this Pickup Precision with Paul. And Paul, this again, along with the theme that you would do very precise work. That's one of the great reasons to have you. Well, one of the great benefits of having you here is that you are very precise in your pickup winding, which makes it. So there's few errors that actually have to be dealt with before things ship or after. So that's great. And but I have a quiz here to develop to test your level of knowledge. Some of the answers of which to these I am not even fully informed. So you may be teaching me something here, Paul. I don't know. Some of these I've kind of forgotten, honestly. Well, I mean, I suspect I know the answer, but you might correct me.
we might have some guitar arguments later after this.
What?
Because of the answers, we'll see.
Oh, okay. All right. So number one. Okay, which of the classic Gibson Golden Era PAF winders throwback owns require multiplying the counter tally by 2?
That is the Lasona 102B.
That's right. Oh, actually, that's you're correct. That is the Lasona 102B. We have a picture here with you with the Lasona 102B actually working today on this. You were actually working there. Now the others I had to stage, but you were working on this one.
I was winding in ESG.
You were
102B.
Okay. Paul, remember the microphone placement there. You have to have that. Be aware it's. Okay, so but the counters we're talking about are the Veeder-Root counters there to your left hand, and for that machine they have to be. Those are the original counters from a 1957 Lasona 102B that require multiplying that counter tally by 2 in order to get the actual turn count. You are correct, sir, with that answer. Okay. Let's go back to the.
It's also very, very, very loud.
It is loud.
It's my least favorite machine to use.
Oh, shoot. That was one of my questions later, Paul.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll go back to it. You can expand upon that. So when we got that machine, it rotated. Well, this is another question. It rotated the opposite direction of what we would prefer for pickups. It's not required for pickups, but in order to get it rotating the correct direction, we had to have a gear set made. So it replaced replaced one gear with 2 to make it operate properly, and it's louder with 2 gears by quite a lot.
So that's why.
Yeah, I think that's why. Also, I think the gears I had made were I had them made out of Delrin, and I think they might be quieter if I have them made out of nylon. But I have to revisit that concept.
Well, you did buy me noise canceling headphones.
Yes,
to use with that machine, which I greatly appreciate.
Okay, let's see. Okay, which of the four Gibson Golden Era winding machines have no auto stop counters, and which machines do have auto stop counters? This is of the machines that we have here.
The KZ115 does not have an auto stop.
That's correct. I will. Let's show that real quick here. That is the KZ115 machine that made by Geo Stevens. That large dial in the upper left corner. This is a machine that came from the Gibson factory, taken out of the factory by Les Paul when Gibson moved to from Kalamazoo to Nashville, closed their Kalamazoo shop. They asked Les Paul if he wanted anything out of the factory. This machine was one of the he took out. So he knew the importance of it as a pickup winding machine. And there's photos of these things in use in the 50s at Gibson. But this counter, this large dial, is the only way this thing stops is by switching the switch off. And Paul, can you explain the dial here? It's been a while since I operated this, but the top pointer, it goes around once every 100 turns, and then the bottom one goes one notch for every 100 turns.
Correct.
Yeah.
The small one, the smaller
inside one.
Yes.
Yeah. So and to reset this, you're literally when you switch it off, you have to zero out the dial by turning the pointers, just physically moving the pointers because they kind of slip on their axis there.
Only the smaller one that goes
Yes.
1 digit per 100 turns. That's the only one that you can
move
move without spinning the
Okay.
machine itself. So I mark it with tape
Yeah, the tape marks that smaller.
to mark the 0 point and also where I'm going to stop it
Yeah.
for each bobbin.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. This was my next question. Which of the four Golden Era pickup winding machines is noisiest? You already answered that one. It's the Lisona 102B.
Yes, and also the other machine that doesn't have an auto counter is the slug winder.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yes. Hold on. Paul.
Sorry, I keep turning my head towards you.
Yeah, we do have a podcast only audience, so the lip readers won't be able to hear you, or won't be able to figure out what you're saying. But okay, so yeah, the two machines are, and I'll show the slug winder. This is the other machine that does not have an auto stop counter. This is another machine that came out of the Kalamazoo factory. We actually removed the old mechanical counter because it stopped working, and it just gave up the ghost at some point. And I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but I guess it's hidden behind your hand. There's a digital Veeder root counter that we wired up that does a turn count. But this machine only stops with a switch, a turn of the switch by your hand. So this is the other non-auto stop winder. And this is one of the things people don't quite get fully when it comes to vintage PAFs and P90s. There were 4 machines that wound them, and only 2 of them had auto stop counters, and the other 2 didn't. They had to be stopped by the operator actually flicking the switch. So there's a variable in how precise those turn counts are. Okay. What is the correct wire, Paul? Question 5. What is the correct wire for a PAF?
42 gauge plain enamel.
That is correct. And of those of 42 gauge plain enamel, we have 2 tolerance variations, and they are what? High ohm per foot, low ohm per foot.
I thought you were going to say the...
Don't give away any secrets. Okay. What we do store it, depending upon the source of it. We either order it in the Min-Nam. Well, it's also Min-Nam. Actually, there's two tolerances. There's Min-Nam, Nam Max, and then there's higher and lower ohm per foot. So we designate those to specific winding stations. Okay, let's see. Number 6. How many swipes using wet dry sandpaper does it take to strip the coating off of 42 gauge plain enamel wire, magnet wire? Do you count them? I think you do. I would guess you do count them.
I do. Generally, I do 3 on each side, or I kind of slowly turn as I'm going around it.
You turn the sandpaper?
Yes.
Okay. So he has developed sort of a level of nuance doing this that I have since either lost or never developed.
Well, and it depends on how hard you're pressing it on
Yeah.
and the grit of the sandpaper.
Yeah,
also.
it depends on which brand of paper you get even, but we've been pretty consistent about what we've used over the last few years. Okay, let's see. How many times do you wrap tape around a throwback butyrate PAF reproduction bobbin?
That would be a minimum of 3 or 4, but often I will put more tape on that depending on the bobbin.
Yeah, but depending on how full it is or how loose the spongy the coil is.
Correct. If it's more spongy, often I'll need to put more layers on to
Yes.
keep it all in there and keep the wires from potentially spilling out.
Yep. Yep. And again, this is another detail of vintage PAF pickups that people don't fully understand or don't know until their pickup goes bad potentially. They can often have wire that is not really fully contained by the bobbin without very precise taping. And it's always an open question as to whether or not it was precisely taped Gibson. And then it's an open question as to whether or not that tape has held up over the years. And again, this is the argument we make for leaving the cover on your PAF is if that tape dries out, the coil tape going around it, and you have a bobbin that is either kind of loosely wound or fairly full of coil wire, it's not uncommon for that to make its way from out behind the tape onto to the edge of the bobbin and then get cut. And then you have a PAF that has to be repaired that doesn't function or function properly. Okay, let's see. Number 8. Which of the 4 classic Golden Era pickup winders that we use produces the loosest coils? Well, this is, I guess I led into this.
That would be the KZ.
KZ115. We will show that again. Yes. That machine in particular, the weird detail about this is this machine requires the highest tension setting of the wire, yet it still produces the loosest coils. And this is a function of the travel of the traverse for this, which since this machine came out of Gibson set up with the fixtures, this is how they were used at Gibson. And this was one of the first automated traverse coil winders they used, and I am quite sure that they had not fully worked out for themselves what the best setup was for fixtures, tension, and traverse in order to get a tight coil. So these are what's the maximum that resistance that you could get out of a pickup made on this?
Oh, I would say 7.8 would maybe be possible if I used the tightest stations.
Yeah. So, but we 7. So we for the KZ set, we 7.7 is the highest we make, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we want to have a little wiggle room with it, but even that 7.8, it's a question as to like if we do 4 bobbins on this, we're now getting to where some of them will be overflowing to the point that they're not usable potentially. And so 7.7 is what the maximum we're willing to do on this machine. And some PAFs are as high as 9K, and that is something we could do on, I'm probably ruining another question here, either the Lisona or the Meteor machine, but you could definitely not do it on this or the Slug machine.
No.
Yeah, and the Slug 101 winder and the KZ winder are the first of the Gibson automated winders that we're aware of. Automated traverse. Okay, let's see. What's my next question here? Which of the four winders produced the hottest coils? Oh, I just answered that. the Meteor and the Lisona 102, because these are more precise in their traverse and the as far as what you can control for the bobbin traverse. Also, the fixtures are different, and Gibson made the fixtures for this machine in a way that further limits the travel, and I think they stopped that because they saw the limitations of that. Okay. Let's see. How many turns does it take for the Lisona 102 to come to a stop after it shuts down?
That depends on the station and which Lisona.
Yeah, so we're talking about it's an auto stop machine. If this auto stop is triggered, it takes a while for the speed to ramp down.
Yes.
So, and that varies by station. So, give me
It's about 10 turns.
It's 10
generally.
10 turns generally. What would be the longest of the three stations? Which on the Lisona 102, not the 102B, but the 102, which one takes the longest?
Well, that would be station 1. I think the clutch needs adjusting or something.
Yeah, the other part of these machines is they require maintenance that they go out of adjustment over time. And that one in that station in particular is particularly bad about that. How many turns is it at right now?
Well, I just stop it after 30. I'll stop it.
Oh, it'll take 30 turns to
Oh, it'll keep as long as
my
the machine
gosh.
is running. If the other stations are going, it'll
I
keep
really
turning
do
on
need to
its own,
adjust that.
but really slow.
Okay, so this is why it's great to have Paul, because he knows that this is he's actually looking at it and sees that this thing is it's going 30 turns when it should go 10. Yeah, I do need to adjust that. But again, so.
Oh, it'll do more than 30. It'll just keep going.
It's at that state right now. Okay, it's good to know.
But it'll do it slowly. So if I don't hear it stop,
Yeah. Okay.
think about 150 turns over is.
Hey, I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I will be working on that. But okay, so this is another one of those variables that I don't believe Gibson cared about in the 50s. And this is another reason you have this wide variance with vintage PAF pickups, because we've literally got the machines that they were using, and this is a sort of thing that happens. And I think if you're making them at production, it's like, well, it's working, it's fine. All right. Okay, so that's let's see. Next question here. Question 11. How frequently do the bobbin mounting alignment pins have to be replaced on the KZ115 PAF winding machine that Les Paul took out of the Gibson factory? Again, that we'll go back to that. That's this machine here. And then when we're talking about pins, you're putting the bobbins on rods that come out of the mounting plate there that align each of the bobbins. Those we found out break. And
Yes.
so what is the frequency by which we've got to replace those?
Well, we're doing them once a year now, and I think the longest they've lasted was probably 18 months.
Yeah, so just for safety's sake, I'm replacing them every year. So after 12 months, I replace them. And kind of the other part of this is, as we got these machines, like when we got this machine, I was the only one using it for at least 6 months because I wanted to find out what are all the things that would go wrong with it. And then once that was worked out, after 6 months or a year, then I had Paul use it. And that way, because all of these have to be maintained, and that way, over that period of time, I know what the things are that are going to have to be fine-tuned and adjusted and just maintained over time. So yeah, at this point, Paul's the one who uses these, and I'm the one that maintains and fixes them.
And you're the one who figures out exactly how you want everything taped and
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, the pickup design and everything,
the internal wires
and the internal starts and all that. I worked that into the specs of all the pickups. But you're very, very precise in making sure all that gets done the way it should be. Let's see. How much does question 12? How much does removing 100 turns of 42 gauge wire from a PAF reproduction bobbin reduce the resistance?
100 turns will be about 0.09.
0.09. And that will vary a little lower if it's lower resistance wire. So, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Let's see. Number 12, or sorry, we did 12. Number 13, what is the what ambient temperature to keep the winding rooms at in order to assure consistent readings off the machine of the coils?
73 degrees.
73 degrees. So we're doing this. We make these in an old furniture factory in Grand Rapids here by the river that was converted to office space. But it is heated and air conditioned throughout the year, and we have thermometers next to where the winding machines are, and to maintain that consistent temperature. And we have one room that's got doors, that double doors, and you're opening and closing those or putting a fan in there.
Correct.
Just to keep that constant 73 degrees. And the reason he does that is because in order for that resistance reading to be meaningful to us, we've got to have the ambient temperature has to be consistent. Because the resistance reading changes with the ambient temperature. So Paul makes sure to adjust the thermostat
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. So if it goes up let's say it goes up 2 degrees in the room, how much is that going to throw off the resistance reading?
Probably 2 degrees would be about 0.05.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
that area.
for one bobbin.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fair amount. So, we have tight specs that we have to keep for each different pickup model. And in order to offer the variety that we do offer, and also if there's some variation going on within the spool, we won't know it if the temperature is not maintained consistently at that 73 degrees. So that's another sort of thing that varies from how we make this stuff than someone who mass produces them would do, or what Gibson did. And again, this is one more of those variables that accounts for how 50s era vintage PAF pickups and P90s, why there's such a wide variance in their specs, and also why we offer a full range of these variances, but we're able to control them so they're repeatable models. We control this stuff that was not controlled in the 50s, and actually probably maybe not controlled to the precision that we control it now in a large production environment.
Yeah, they probably didn't have somebody moving the door.
That's right.
By 6 inches.
Yeah, you're
between
literally
each bobbin. To make sure that
there's
the
literally like a digital thermometer with a temperature probe right by the cart there that you're using to put the bobbins on. And if that starts to vary, you're opening and closing the door to let some cool air in, or and sometimes there's a fan blowing in that room in order to maintain the right temperature. Okay. 13. Oh, did 13. 14. How much lower will a PAF reproduction coil read 1 hour after it's been wound? So, am I correct that there's going to be a fractional difference right after it's been wound than after it's off the machine? Has this been your experience?
Yeah, each bobbin will lose about 0.06.
Okay, so now the reason I think this happens is that the tensioning system for these machines is felt tensioning. So as the wire passes through minimum one, in some of these machines, it's 3 felt tensioners before it gets on the bobbin. The wire does. The friction of it passing through there in order to maintain the tension heats up the wire. And so it takes some time for that slight increase in temperature that's on the wire as it lays down to dissipate. So that's another factor that Paul in his pickup precision is very good. I mean, I know this happens, but you knew the number right off the bat.
Well, even handling them, just touching the bobbin,
Yeah.
even holding it for say 10 seconds is going to make.
Oh, that's right.
It's going to
Yeah.
make it read quite a bit differently.
Yeah.
Like if I was to hold it, in my hand for 10, 15 seconds, it's going to read, 0.1 higher.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. People don't realize sort of the importance as far as making something repeatable that the temperature has for a pickup coil. Let's see. 14. That we did 14. 15. Which of the vintage PF winding machines is your least favorite machine to use? I think I already know the answer to this, but maybe not. It may not be the noisiest machine.
Sometimes it's the KZ winder, because that one takes a little bit more time to do the start wires.
Yeah, it's a
And
little.
the finished wires also.
Yeah, because it's a little awkward because you have to put these large plates on there between them for stacking it that are round.
Yes.
And so with the slug machine, the pieces between the bobbins are not round. They're just the width of a bobbin.
It takes more work to tape them up, and also because it's a looser coil, it's not as uniform and perfect looking, and I like things to be nice and precise and,
Yeah,
and
it's true.
perfect looking.
Yeah, the precision part of the precision with Paul. I think it's a personality trait of Paul. He really does like things to be precise. So
It's good for this job, but some jobs they don't like how particular I
Yeah.
like to have everything.
okay, so yeah, so the yeah, so again, the reason this thing these just make looser coils, even though it requires the most tension. So I can see why that might be your least favorite machine to work on.
And the 102B is mainly just because
The noise.
it's loud.
Yeah, it's noisier. Yeah, actually, I suspected that the KZ115 would be your least favorite one to use because of that, because for the reasons you mentioned. Okay. 16. What must be done to prep a butyrate PAF reproduction bobbin before they are wound with coil wire?
It needs to be sanded along the edges, and then there is often flashing where
Yeah.
the holes are, so that has to be filed off as well.
So when he says flashing, that is the term for molded plastic parts where the component pieces of the mold come together. A plastic mold is multiple precisely machined parts that fit together and then come apart to eject the molded piece. Sometimes where those metal pieces meet, the plastic will ooze out enough to create what's called flash on the finished plastic part. And that has to be, there's no flash on there, is there, Paul? On this golden bobbin.
Looks like you fixed it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
each run will be different, too.
this came down the Kalamazoo River, Paul, to confluence of the
that's
Grand River in Lowell, I think, and in this precision made curly maple box somehow wound up in the parking lot across the street by the Grand River, right by the shore. I'm sticking to that story. But
Lowell, huh?
so I think Lowell is where the Grand River runs into or the Kalamazoo River meets the Grand River, I think. Or am
I was never aware that the two converged.
They do. I looked it up. At least AI says they do. Okay. Let's see. Where am I here? Okay. What effect does a long internal start lead have on the wire as it lays down on a PAF reproduction coil? Now, so I mentioned this because we have a vintage PAF has an internal start lead, and we have more than one length for that. And if the largest length, it does what to the coil if you were to stop it, let's say before it's fully wound?
I'm not sure.
Well,
get
let's
your question.
Okay, so okay. Let's say you start one that does not have an internal start lead, and you stopped at 300 turns in, and what would the coil look like? But if it has an internal start lead, what is the coil going to look like 300 turns in?
Well, 300 turns in, it's going to be scattered, and you'll still be able to see some of the internal wire.
Yes, the start lead. But when without the internal start lead, it'll just be a very uniform wire at the core of the coil.
Flat.
Yeah, but by the time they're full with wire, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between the two.
Generally, no.
Yeah. So, again, this is another one of the details people don't really realize with a vintage PAF is that the internal start lead within the bobbin scatters the wire randomly because of this obstacle that's within the center of the coil, and the center of the coil is what has the coil wire at the center of the coil has the disproportionately high impact on the tone of the pickup. Because it's closest in proximity to the poles. So having this internal start lead is...
Pardon me.
Having this internal start lead is an important element of the tone and character of a vintage PAF. And different manufacturers have kind of tried to fake the look of it by having a wire that passes underneath the bobbin that appears to be an internal start lead, when in reality the actual lead is not internal. It's soldered to the outside of the finished coil. So that's what I was getting at with that question, Paul. It was a reason for me to explain that difference. But of the difference of which makes a real difference in terms of setup for each particular coil that you're winding. Okay, 18. What percentage of PAF and P90 reproduction pickup coils that you wind fail off the machine?
Very few.
Is it like a percent? Is it like a percentage or a fraction of a percentage?
Oh, I would say a fraction of a percentage, and generally it's going to be the KZ115 winder.
Yeah. And again, I think that's probably because of the and we're not even talking 1%.
No.
The reason I mentioned
probably
this,
close though.
You close, you think, to that?
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned this is I've heard statistics for major pickup manufacturers, and they have a much higher acceptable rate of failed coils than we would ever be okay with. And again, this is the difference between a model where you're seeing how many you can produce in a day, and you're seeing, which is what a major sort of production at scale place is going to do, and a place like Pick a Maker like us, which our focus is on how consistently and precisely can we control these specs in order to make repeat models that have variances that you won't find other places. So it's a very small portion of coils that fail.
And usually it's the operator's error.
Is it? Yeah. Like maybe the wire's taped and you didn't realize to untape it or something?
That could be.
That does happen.
Or the wire is not on the guide correctly.
Yeah.
And that might not even make it fail, but it'll create more tension. So when I measure it, it'll read higher
It'll be out of
than
spec.
it's supposed to, and then that will let me know that something's wrong with the setup of the machine if it's reading,
Yeah.
0.1 higher.
Yeah.
I know that something happened to make the tension go higher.
Yeah.
So I know there's something that needs to be tweaked or fixed.
Yes. Now, so again, Paul is very precise about this, and he knows this stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure other people know this stuff, but again, what we're making here is meant to be precise and consistent year after year, and to a level of tolerance that is unusual in the pickup making world. Okay, let's see. Are throwback vintage PAF reproduction pickups or P90 pickups wax potted?
No.
No. And the reason we don't, you're correct, Paul, but we will wax pot them for anybody that requests it at no charge. But the reason we don't is because, and have very few people requesting it, is because the precision that that Paul takes in winding these coils, that we take in assembling them, and making sure the assembly is tight with in terms of just being assembled well and precisely, and also the covers being flat. All of the parts and pieces fit together as they should, and we make sure that when we're assembling them, that we're doing it correctly. This reduces significantly the incidence of feedback just by paying attention to how they're assembled. So as a result, we don't have a lot of people requesting wax potted. So there's potting because there's really not a need for it. But on the exceptions, when people do feel they need it, we're happy to do it free of charge. But again, that percentage is well below 1%, wouldn't you say?
Yes. But, there's people that like to sit on their amplifier when they play the guitar.
Yeah.
They might need wax potting.
Yeah. No, this is true. He says it sort of as a joke, but it's honestly true. If we get someone who's complaining about feedback, I usually ask, are you playing a Marshall in your basement, a Marshall half stack in your basement, and are you like 3 feet away from it? And very often they'll say yes. I'm making that up. It's the truth. So it's like there are instances where, yeah, you need it wax potted just due to sheer volume and gain. So if you're in that camp, a Marshall half stack in a basement sounds glorious, but it's like, yes, you're going to have a feedback problem if it's not fully wax potted. Highly likely. Okay, last question. How many Alnico bar magnets does Throwback use for, vintage PAF reproduction pickups? I kind of threw a monkey wrench in that with my previous Thompson Skinner comment about Long Alnico 2. I'm not even sure I know. It's either...
Yeah, it'll take me a minute to think. Let's see here.
Well, let's say it out loud. Okay, so we've got one Alnico 3 long magnet.
Yes.
We've got one Alnico 4 long magnet. We've got one short Alnico 2 magnet. Am I answering? Do you feel bad that I'm answering this question, Paul? We'll answer. Let's see. We've got the Arnold long Alnico 2. We've added the Thomason Skinner long Alnico 2. We have a short Alnico oriented Alnico 5. That's Thomason Skinner. We have a long oriented Alnico 5, which is Arnold, but it's actually the melt record from Permanent Magnet Company. So is our Alnico 2. I should have said that. At least the Arnold Alnico. The Arnold Alnico 2 is actually not Arnold Alnico 2. It's Permanent Magnet Alnico 2. Where was I? Long oriented. We have Arnold unoriented Alnico 5. And we have Permanent Magnet unoriented Alnico 5. So that's 9. Did I miss any?
I think you got them all.
All right. We got 9. Okay. Thank you, Paul, for that accurate answer. Okay. So, all right. That took a while. Okay, I'm going to briefly go over my Paul here. I was at the outro there. I'm going to go to my guitar regret here. I'll go over this quickly. I played this guitar a little bit ago with Paul.
Was that your regret?
No, playing with you. No, that was wonderful, Paul. Okay. I don't think I've mentioned this guitar before as a guitar regret, but this is my 1952 to 57 Les Paul conversion. It's I purchased this. It didn't. The pots and the switch are original. The had a neck break. It was reset okay by someone, but it was at the time one of these things that was just affordable enough for me to get it, and put our pickups in it. It's got throwback M69 rings. It does have the original pick guard. Has vintage knobs on it, and but when I got it, the seller did not make it clear to me that it just reeked and reeked and reeked and reeked of mold and mildew. So, can you smell it, Paul?
It's not too bad.
No, okay. So that put me on a quest to get this thing smelling like a normal guitar. It was so bad it would make my eyes water when I played it, and my drummer could smell it, and he dubbed it Stinky. So it became known as Stinky. So I'll just tell you everything I did to get this thing to smell normal. First, I tried putting it in the sun. The sun did not take care of it. I cleaned it off real well. I waxed it real well with I think I read that like putting turtle wax or something would seal and smell. Did not do it. I put it in an ozone chamber. It did not take care of it. I wiped it down with Listerine. I had read that that the antifungal properties of Listerine would take care of it. It did not solve the problem. I have a UV ultralight violin drying box, and I put it in there for for 3 days straight, right? Because I'd read about mold, and apparently it has a life cycle where it 24 hours, at some point throughout 24 hours, it puts out spores. And I thought, if I interrupt that with several days of ultraviolet light exposure, maybe that will do it. And it worked. I mean, there's actually a stain on the side here from mold on it, where it kind of somehow got under the finish and made a little brown spot there, a little slightly darker spot. Anyway, it is cured. Although I had to throw the case away, it was not a vintage original case, so it wasn't a big deal, but this is what I played with Paul, and it is now my turn from a guitar regret to a guitar something. Guitar Triumph. Guitar Triumph. It's my favorite Les Paul. It sounds great. It's a little over 8.5 pounds. Perfect weight for a Les Paul, and so all is not lost if your guitar is mildewy. I highly advise if you can get a UV drying box, ultraviolet drying box, and expose it to ultraviolet light for, I think, more than 24 hours, that makes a big difference. But anyway, all right, that's it. I'll put it away. Okay, Paul, that's it.
All right.
Hold on here. We gotta. Oh no, that's not it. Hold it. That was too quick. We got to do the outro music here. Hold on. All right, Paul, tell us about your experience on the Throwback Guitar Lounge podcast.
It was a joy.
Are you?
It's a little disorienting looking at the different angles.
Yes, I have. There's a monitor for Paul and a monitor for me, so that we appear to be sort of looking at each other. And you did very well, though, Paul.
I'm shocked. I'm not good with public speaking.
You it's just me.
Yeah.
But you answered all of the Paul's Pickup Precision questions well. You wear the golden butyrate bobbin well. You'll have it, but you have a new responsibility. You must maintain that for future generations.
Oh, of course.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yes, thank you.